Thanks for that, Steve. That was great. We're a little behind on time, but there's a ton of great questions. So I'm going to hand it over to Jeremy and leave your slides up in case any of the questions are specific to those slides.
Will do.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. That was fantastic. Great tips for everyone. I want to be just real brief with their answers here, but we've got a few questions I want to try to get to, and then you'll have some in the queue for you offline to answer for folks. But a couple had asked about, first, is it better to start downstream or upstream when you're implementing these?
Yeah, so BDAs, I would say it's often better to start downstream and work up because you know where to put your next structure based on the size of pond that you create. A little bit of overlap of these structures is okay, but you generally don't want to overlap them so much that one structure is swamping out another one. As far as PALs go, I think it's less important, except for if you're using a boat, which, so if you're in a medium to larger stream, we worked from from upstream to downstream because we were floating the post pounder down the creek. So
great. That's good advice. Also, can these structures be built when the stream is dry? Are there advantages, disadvantages to building at different flow conditions?
Yeah, that's something I forgot to mention. Typically we're building these at low flow. It's easier logistically, but we have built lots of structures in dry streams. The only caveat there is that it's much harder visually for building BDAs because there's no water to give you a cue of whether you're building it well enough to pond. So that's the one drawback from a BDA's perspective. But for PALs, we build lots of them.
I love the instant gratification when you have a little bit of water.
Yeah, I think it's much more exciting for people to see their impact right away.
And wood accumulation can be pretty fun when you get your little key pieces and then you just float them in and let them pile up on their own if you're building in a higher flow.
Yeah.
And the last question, I guess, kind of relates to something we hear like in every watershed around the West. Well, my system's really flashy. So, I'm worried about these all blowing out the first.
Yep.
What have you observed in reality and what do you think are the features that make these structures relatively less susceptible to that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because we hear that everywhere we go. All streams will flash at some point in their life, so it's more what's the frequency of the flashiness. So we're working with a guy who's working on basically a spring-fed stream, but it just blew out 50 of his structures because he had a 100-year event happen. So yes, if there's a 100-year event, these structures will get blown out, just like most engineered structures will get blown out at these big flows. So we can't really do much about that. But we have seen these structures stand up to 600, 700, almost 1,000 CFS flows. And some of the ones that we build that we put a little extra effort into, those fail. And the ones that look kind of puny and we think, well, that one's going to fail, it lasts for 10 years. And that's where we're at right now. We're in the 10-year range on many of these structures, and they're still there. So they last long enough, I think, is the point. And anything that's really big is a problem for anybody doing street restoration.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Steve. Appreciate that. You have some questions to answer offline here, but Joe, back